Yeah, hello everyone. This is really exciting, and I'm really excited to be the first presenter on this event. I think we have a huge lineup of speakers ahead over the next 12 hours. So thanks so much for having me. Yeah, my name is Leanna Crowley. I am the marketing communications manager for Nikoi and Cempedak, which are two private islands located in the Riau archipelago, which is in Indonesia, pretty close to Singapore. So Nikoi Island was opened in 2007 and it has been a long run member since 2013. And then in May 2022, we were actually recognized as a global ecosphere retreat, which is the highest level of accreditation that the long run provides. Cempedak then opened 10 years after Nikoi in 2017. And just a few months after it opened in May 2018, we joined a long run with Cempedak as well. And we're now working really hard towards achieving global ecosphere retreat status for Cempedak as well. So I will start just by giving you a bit of background. Um, as I said, Nikoi and Cempedak are two private islands, and they are just an hour south of Singapore, off the east coast of an island called Bintan. You can get to Nikoi and Cempedak via a ferry from Singapore or a flight from Jakarta, and then a little car journey across Bintan and a speedboat over to our islands. So we were established by a small group of Singapore-based friends who were essentially impressed by the natural beauty and the proximity of the area to Singapore, but they were generally dissatisfied with what was on offer in terms of the accommodation options. So what they found was either rundown shacks or overly luxurious, pretty fake hotels with no connection to the local environment or to culture. So with that, the vision was essentially born, and that was to create a place that balances simple, beautiful architecture with personal service, all while blending into the natural environment and the local community. So the goal was essentially to provide guests with an authentic and meaningful experience whilst making a significant positive impact on the people who live in the area. So for this presentation, we've been asked to highlight the challenges, solutions, and outcomes of our responsible tourism initiatives. And I've decided to separate these out into the long run's guiding principles of the four C's, which are conservation, community, culture, and commerce. So I've just kind of picked a few examples for each. It's definitely not a full summary of our responsible tourism story, but hopefully it's insightful. So when we consider conservation and the challenges we face there, one of the biggest issues that we encountered was the degradation of the surrounding marine ecosystems. This was mainly due to, firstly, overfishing, a long history of overfishing, and also illegal fishing techniques, including dynamite fishing. And then one of the biggest issues as well that we kind of recognized in the last few years was a lot of sedimentation, and that's due to illegal mining activities on neighboring islands. So the mining essentially resulted in a lot of the soil and sedimentation coming down into the ocean and floating over and basically covering a lot of the reefs and really reducing the health of them. So yeah, because of that, marine conservation has really been at the forefront of our concerns and something we really wanted to tackle since the start. On the kind of social side, in terms of our community, we actually conducted a survey and it indicated that the surrounding community had limited access to quality education, and that was their kind of biggest priority in terms of social issues that they wanted to face. So again, that quickly became something that we really wanted to help change and try and use our kind of status as a large business in the area to make a difference there. Culturally, there is a indigenous nomadic seafaring community in our area. They're called the Orang Laut. So traditionally, they lived at sea for huge amounts of time. They would go for almost months to years on their boats without needing or essentially wanting to go to land. However, in recent years, there's been a lot of forced moved, or a lot of them have been forced to move to land. given a whole different range of issues at hand, a lot being government policy and kind of resettlement programs, but also territory restrictions, development of the islands, and environmental struggles as well. So we were essentially concerned to see that because of this and because of their change in life, their traditions and their way of life were really at risk. And especially so because they have been quite marginalized within a lot of local communities. So that was something we didn't want to see disappear. And yeah, has also been a priority for us. And then finally, from a commerce side of view, running a truly remote private island comes with a lot of financial challenges. I'd say there's a lot of other presenters on this event which will say similar things. But yeah, when it comes to running an island like ours, we really have to think about the supply chain logistics, how we're going to get what we need to provide the guests the experience that we want to give them. And then also operational costs are also concerns. So we have to really think outside the box when it comes to waste management, energy production, water harvesting, all of that. Cool. Solutions. So how did we respond to these challenges and what essentially were our solutions? So from the conservation side of view and to address our concerns around the marine environment, we partnered with Conservation International, who are a global charity. So at the start of the partnership, we actually supported them in their research efforts to basically fully understand the situation at hand and what the biggest threats were that were facing the marine environment. And then following that, we actually set up a local NGO, and the goal of that NGO is essentially to establish a fully functioning and well-managed marine protected area. And then on the community front, kind of in a similar vein, we also set up an NGO, a separate one. That one's called the Island Foundation, and they've been going for over a decade now, and they work to improve learning opportunities in our neighboring coastal and small island communities. So what was kind of highlighted there in that survey that we did in the community, they're essentially tackling that. And they actually do this through three different pillars. So firstly, they operate learning centers, which are, well, they provide children with extra school classes. And they do that through a framework called Learning for Sustainability. So it focuses a lot on local culture and traditions and also environmental topics as well. The second pillar that they have is teacher training. So they provide workshops for local teachers to basically improve their teaching skills. And that's actually recognized by the Ministry of Education. So not only does it help within the classroom and the impact that they have on the children, it also helps the teachers with furthering their careers and their opportunities. And then finally, they run community events as well. So the main goal of that is to further their kind of impact and reach beyond the classroom, to reach children who might not necessarily be coming to their learning centers, and also to really engage with the parents and the kind of wider community. From a culture point of view, to kind of address those concerns that we had with the Oranglang community and just the general kind of loss of local traditions and cultures, we actually launched a artist residency program on Nikoi Island, which is called Uberuma. It means home of change. So the program invites Southeast Asian artists and researchers to reside on the island for extended periods of time. Generally, researchers come for about 2 weeks, and artists come from anywhere between 4 and 6 weeks. So during those residencies, they explore the local islands, they chat to the local community, and then they kind of come back to the island, to Nikoi Island, and they produce artwork there. And they also engage with our guests through workshops. Our guests and our staff, actually, they're very actively involved in it. So for us, it's a really great platform to preserve and promote local traditions, but it's also enabling us to bring guests into that conversation about local culture in a kind of fun and different way. And then finally, in regards to commerce, we have always kind of put sustainability first when it comes to all of our operational decisions. And that's not because we want to tick a box or achieve a certificate or an award. It's mainly because financially, it's essentially the most effective way to operate a private island. So some examples of the many different things we've done to achieve this include on both islands installing solar PV, utilizing rainwater harvesting. We've actually created our own farm on the mainland on Bintan, so that supplies a lot of our ingredients for our kitchens. We use 3D printers to replace broken parts on the island, so we don't have to wait for small parts to be traveled all around the world and have to rely on our supply chain. We've also really significantly reduced our food waste, and a lot of that is thanks to using set menus at all of our meals. So we don't use buffets or anything like that, and all of the guests receive basically the same meals as each other, which means that we can really kind of prioritize our food and our dining experiences. And then any food waste that we do produce is managed really well through a composting system, which uses black soldier fly larvae. So the larvae essentially convert the food into compost. And then when they've completed their life cycle, we then feed them to the chickens on our farm. So it's a completely kind of closed loop system. So yeah, those are just a few of the examples. There's loads of them, and our engineering teams are absolutely fantastic. We're coming up for different solutions to really minimize not only our operational costs but our kind of environmental impact as well. So in terms of the outcomes and the results of these efforts, I think the numbers speak for themselves. We're pretty proud of it. So from our conservation initiatives and through that partnership with Conservation International and the local NGO that we set up, we have helped to gazette a over 138,000 hectare marine protected area. That happened in 2022, I believe it was, maybe 21. So at the moment, the management plan is being finalized, and we are heavily involved in both the kind of creation and finalization of that plan. And we're really hoping that we can be actively involved as well in the implementation of it and supporting wherever we can. So it's a really exciting time for us. We've actually also employed a full-time marine biologist earlier on this year, and her research is not only helping to guide this, but it's also involving our guests into that conversation as well. And she's created a few crafted experiences around that as well. Then to look over into the community.